All right, guys. Well, hey, welcome to our strategies to prevent AI-driven data leaks presented by Trellix. So, for our first timers, Trellix is a combination of McAfee and FireEye, really bringing the best of both technologies to help defend your environment. My name is Jeff Meacham. I am a global AWS solutions architect here at Trellix, and I'm really excited to show you guys some of the ways that we mitigate risks around these AI data leaks. And if you're wondering, yes, I really am that pixelated in real life as well. So let's talk about some of the challenges my wonderful co-speakers have already hit and nailed on. So many of you who are on the front lines or leading teams that address these issues, you already know these challenges, such as you're operating in a complex data environment, such as a mix of hybrid, multi-cloud, and on-prem. So your guys' data is constantly stored in diverse locations and constantly on the move. So that makes your data management very complex, I imagine. Now, on top of that, I would imagine that, well, I doubt that any of you would tell me that you have enough resources to manage your data. And finally, threats are getting really sophisticated. Bad actors are constantly evolving, even using AI to target your data. I forgot who said this, but someone compared AI to growing at the same time of dog years. So every human year that passes, AI has grown another 7 years. It is just outstanding how quickly it is able to grow. Now, with the rise of AI, it's no surprise that its use is growing rapidly just across the board. I mean, we're seeing it adopted by both individuals and organizations. In fact, there's a McKinsey survey from 2025 that shows, well, quite frankly, a remarkable 71% of organizations are using Gen AI in at least one function. So 63% of those are specifically leveraging it to create text outputs, which really just highlights its role in content generation, which might create or even compromise sensitive data, which means that a significant portion of the general public is also now regularly using these AI tools. So, in fact, 40% of US adults report using these tools, with a notable third of them using them a few times a week. I mean, essentially, what I want you to take away from this slide from a security perspective is that sensitive data can now be either an input to these Gen AI systems or an output generated by them. So that introduces new vectors of data leakage and compromise. Some, including leaders, will actually make the argument that, hey, there's a security risk of AI, particularly data security. It's not worth the reward. However, these same leaders are finding that their users are increasingly turning to AI for a multitude of reasons, such as making improvements to their own efficiency. It helps with their processing power and even adding resource capacity. So you guys see this challenge. People want to succeed. They want to be rock stars. And that's really what makes it so hard to turn away from AI in an organization completely. So despite the increases in productivity and capability that AI offers, obviously there are some increases as risk. Not everyone shares the same level of enthusiasm or optimism about the impact AI will have. So there is a huge gap in how different stakeholders are perceiving these risks and benefits of AI advances. In fact, look at this data. From a recent Pew Research Center survey from April 2025, about 3/4 of AI experts, those that are deeply involved in developing and understanding this tech, they believe that AI will likely benefit them personally. However, when we look at the general US adult population, that sentiment is actually very different. I mean, roughly 4 in 10 of US adults express concern, believing that AI will likely harm them personally. And that really shows a significant difference in perspective. So this gap that's your guys' critical challenge. It highlights the need for us to demonstrate how we are actively protecting sensitive data within AI systems. So let's go ahead and talk about these risks and practical tips to protect your data. How does data get compromised? Well, if the data is visible, it can be ingested by AI. That's just a fact and is what it is. And that's very important because there's data like PHI data that can be pulled in through insecure APIs or interfaces. And that's important to note. Misconfigurations like insecure APIs will just leak that data, meaning it wasn't fed into the AI, it's just going to the internet like an all-you-can-eat buffet or me at Krispy Kreme. There's also the threat of data poisoning or malware injection during that file intake, which could even compromise the model itself. So user interactions, they're obviously the more common and immediate risk. So anytime someone uploads a file, pastes content, or types sensitive information to a prompt, that data goes straight to that system. So a real world example of this, Samsung. Their engineers uploaded internal code to ChatGPT for debugging. That proprietary data ended up exposed, showing just how easily critical information can leak through normal interactions. So how do we prevent this? Well, first, we need strong policies and standards to govern AI use, such as defining acceptable use cases and applications that our users know and understand and are aware of, which leads into training. All employees, contractors, and third parties, they have to be trained on acceptable use policies. And that training has to be ongoing, not a one-time effort, because like I made mention before, these AI tools, they're evolving quickly. And finally, technology. This is essential because the universe will always create an impervious leaker inside of your company. So you need to have some kind of data loss prevention tool or even policies that should protect traditional storage, your cloud applications, and web browsing. Really, you want to build a perimeter around that sensitive data. Browser protection is a key control point, especially for AI risks like copy and paste, but that doesn't even include file uploads or web-based interactions. So let's talk about how we can take those proactive steps to help protect the data and the tools that Trellix uses. So we use our own DLP tool, data loss prevention tool, that uses our internal AI to help classify the data without reading it. It creates policies and cases so you know when the content is shared outside of your organization, and it gives us a resolution to those cases. So you might be thinking at this point, Jeff, you crazy, brilliant fool. Haven't you been talking about AI leakage and prevention? If so, why are you using AI? So our internal AI actually doesn't read the data. It looks for patterns in the data to identify what it is. So like if we had a series of numbers, like we have 3 digits, followed by 2 digits, followed by 4, that's probably a social security number. The AI doesn't need to read or ingest that. And on top of that, we don't use your data to train our AI. We don't use your data. We don't need your data. We don't want your data. Your data is your data. Our AI has already been trained. And although it will learn off your internal baselines, that never gets reported back to Trellix. Anyways, that was a long tangent. Let's take a look at an example of what our AI does when your users are posting the secret Krabby Patty formula. So for example, here we can see that DLP, it created this case, and it's identifying that a user was trying to share content to an online AI machine, and then a case was created. So this shows us the severity of the data that was almost leaked. We also get an event summary that walks us through the steps of how to contain this or remediate this. And one thing that's really cool about this is that we can actually even stop it before it gets to this step if we wanted to by blocking data from being pasted. But in this case, this policy is allowing us to keep using AI, but it is tracking what's being put in. Now, if any of you guys would like to see a demo of that blocking capability later, please let me know after this presentation. You'll get a copy of these slides and my contact information. On top of the summary, you can even chat directly with Trellix Wise and find out more information, such as additional context and investigation steps. So basically, you have an analyst that you can talk to, and it's helping you every step of the way. Now let's talk about what we're about to release. This is coming in Q4. So everyone on this call, you need to keep this more secret than I am. This is what we call our shadow AI board. So this is going to show you from an enterprise level who is trying to share data online and to where and what kind of data. So right here, you can see that you can identify what the web activity is and what the data leakage is. Which users are sharing the most content or reaching out to different online AI tools, and see which ones are violating the information sharing policies, or depending on how you set up your own policies, at least trying to violate those policies. And identify which methods they are using. Whenever we talk about AI, I think a lot of people, they immediately go to ChatGPT. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Maybe Claude or Gemini or whatever, but even uploading videos to online platforms for AI to add subtitles to, that's still a form of data leakage. And it's still something that we can track. And then from one singular console, we can even take action on what those users are doing, such as logging them out or locking them out. So keep in mind that none of these protective actions that I just talked about, they wouldn't be possible without some kind of data loss prevention policies. Now, if you have our tool or when you use our tool, we already have a bunch of built-in data types and policy configurations that'll help your organizations protect the sensitive data that truly matters. Whenever we talk about policies, it always seems like this stark, scary thing, but our engineers, we already built that for you. It's just a matter of activating it. So just a quick summary, data security tools like data activity monitoring. This is going to provide you an automated monitoring, blocking, and detailed alerts on potential threats. You don't need to read through the PCAPs to see if somebody is trying to reach out to an external AI. In fact, these capabilities are just going to help your organizations protect your critical enterprise data from compromise or data leakage. And they will also allow your teams to quickly identify the source and type of risk so you can contain that current threat and prevent similar attacks in real time. And that's even important too. I mean, I use the example of we can block a copy and paste into an AI model. Well, I might be kind of ignorant. I don't know what can be shared out or not, right? But then I'll just get a notification it was blocked. And that way I can still keep using AI so I'm efficient and proficient. Now, if you want, you can scan here for some more information. You will get a copy of this presentation. So if you are fumbling for your phones to take a quick scan, don't worry about it. You guys will get a copy of this as well as my contact information. Like I may mention before, if you want to see some demos or anything, I'm more than happy to talk to you through it. I am not a sales rep, so I will not be pressuring you to buy anything. We're all here to learn, right? So I'm always more than happy to jump on a call and talk about stuff. And that is all I have.